Twilight Syndrome. It's an incredibly intriguing series of games that stars young high schoolers as they investigate rumors of paranormal phenomenon like young people do in real life. And the rumors are often based on real life urban legends, and to make things really interesting, the cases that these young people investigate often make them realize things about themselves or involve themselves in some kind of way. And they're incredibly well told stories that, unlike a lot of other horror games, really nail tension. These games can build up to a confrontation like it's nobody's business, to the point that there's rarely, if any actual supernatural happening appearing on screen, but you feel it, you are right there with the people investigating, and as they get more and more tense, so do you. And that's an incredible feat for games that are just glorified walking simulators. They're the kinds of games that I would beg people to play, because these almost 30-year-old pieces of media do things with storytelling in games that modern games could learn a lot from, and just experiencing them is an event, and an incredibly immersive one. Unfortunately, they are in Japanese. They never really sold that well to my knowledge, and they've never received a fan translation, and the sort of creator of them, Suda51, is uninterested in localizing them or even releasing them on modern platforms for Japanese audiences, because according to him, they aren't really his games, since he was only brought into the project on the first one, well into development to salvage the project, and on the 1st of March we got the first half of the duology. So sit back and relax and let me, for probably the first time in English, take you through a journey through Twilight Syndrome, Tansaku-Hen, aka Search. Tansaku-Hen opens up as three girls are walking through the halls of their school at night. From left to right they are Mika with the red hair, Chisato the short one, and Yukari with the flashlight. They are not here at school to catch up on their studying though. They are here to investigate a rumor of a ghost that lives in the bathroom on the 2nd floor. The ghost is the famous Hanako-san from Japanese folklore, a girl that during World War II, depending on variation, died in the bathroom of her school, either because of suicide at the hands of an abusive adult, or even more tragically, due to an air raid bombing while playing hide and seek. In the legend, she lives on the 3rd floor bathroom in the 3rd floor stall, and you summon her by knocking 3 times and asking if she's present, and she'll reply, "Yes, I am." But when the girls do just that and turn around 3 times, nothing happens. Turns out that this ghost is a little different, and they need to recite the Japanese equivalent of the hopscotch rhyme, and then she will appear. And they do, and she does. The girls, naturally frightened, sprint out of the bathroom and run down the stairs, but there is something wrong. They were on the 2nd floor, and they went down a flight of stairs, but here there are stairs leading both up and also down. Shouldn't happen on the 1st floor, which means that they somehow got turned around. They hear the ghost and start running again and duck into a classroom before the ghost once again finds them. Realizing they can't go down, they try and go up, and they make it up to the roof, and they're trapped. The ghost appears and moves towards them, and they have no idea what to do, and it was all a dream. It's daytime now, and Chisato and Mika are bothering Yukari about something, and no one seems to remember what just happened, so it must have been a dream, right? They're planning on going to the park tonight to investigate a rumor, and later when school is out and the sun is down, they do just that. Aside from an encounter with what they thought was a ghost who wears sunglasses to hide the fact that they have no eyes but only 2 gaping holes where their eyes should be, which just turned out to be a blind man walking his dog who had no idea what the time was because he was blind, the trip to the park was fairly uneventful. That was until they got back and developed the photographs they took at supposedly haunted spots in the park. And they learned that they are indeed haunted, as the photos have strange artifacting on them that really can't be explained. We have to assume Chisato is actually the only one that sees the photographs, and she burns them before Mika gets a chance to look. But it nonetheless whets their appetite, and they decide to return the next night to the locations in the park where they took the pictures. They go back to the Torii Gate they visited the night before, and then they hear a gut-wrenching scream. Despite the scream and the bad energy surrounding the place, they decide to ascend the stairs anyways, but come to regret it when they reach the summit. There is a foul stench in the air, something is obviously very wrong and very much not normal. But before they can make a chance whether to flee or investigate, another scream is heard, this time closer. And their fear makes their choice for them, and they run down the stairs. They agree to get out of here, but before they can begin making their way back, a truck parked up by the Torii Gate comes tumbling down, and they all jump to the side to get out of its way. And then a splash is heard as one of them falls into the water. Barks can be heard in the distance, and before whoever it is that is in the water drowns, they're pulled up by Mr. Sakai, the blind old man from yesterday. He explains that the spot by the Torii Gate is cursed, and on moonless nights like these, the curse is in full effect and the place lashes out at anyone that comes near it. It used to be an execution spot, but not just criminals. During a certain period of time in Japan, there was great unrest and people were executed left and right to appease some sort of cosmic entity of yin and yang. Much like the witch hunts in Europe and America, people were hung left and right, and that included everyone from soldiers failing to win battles to women and children for just existing. Ironically, this attempt to appease whatever gods the rulers felt were cursing the lands, cursed the land itself. The heads of the executed would roll down the hill, and due to the volume of heads, the water was infected and the nearby crops began to fail, and the nearby land fell into ruin. Mr. Sakai says that the cursed execution spot was fairly quiet up until recently, but that something must have happened in a way that upset it. Chisato, who was the one he rescued from the lake, asks what they should do, and he comforts her and states that there are people working on it. There are always people working on it. She then thanks him for saving her and bids him and his dog Felasto farewell, and then she meets back up with Yukari and Mika, and they all head back home. The next day, the truck incident is in the local paper, but it's explained away as a mechanical failure. Chisato asks around the neighborhood of the park for Mr. Sakai, but is informed that he died last night, and it's implied that he was very old and very feeble, unlike the man she met at the park last night. Whoever he was right about other forces working to prevent things like this from happening. And on the parking lot where the Torii Gate is, a shrine is built following the incident, and it's implied that the curse calms down following that. A man is called into a classroom, and here he finds a girl hanging by her neck. 3 girls discuss it, and it's clear that the girl was engaged in an inappropriate relationship with a teacher. Cut to Yukari, and we have a parallel. She's talking to a teacher who she herself is in an inappropriate relationship with, and she's sweet-talking him for the keys to the school, which explains why the trio is able to enter it at night and investigate the rumors that they have been investigating. Due to the rumor of the girl and the parallel to Yukari's own situation, she's a bit more enthusiastic about investigating this particular rumor, as she wants to be sure that the hanging was unconnected to the forbidden loving. They head to the school at night and make their way to the music room, where one of them starts to play a tune, and by playing a tune, I mean that the composer for the game recorded one of the presets on his Yamaha keyboard and called it a day. They don't find anything in the music room itself that hints at an affair, but we do learn from Mika that the MF in the MF music room is a dedication to a girl that committed suicide, so it apparently happened some time ago, contrary to what the opening would have us believe. We learn that MF used to communicate with her forbidden lover via the school's intercom system. She would send covert messages that everyone could hear, but that only he could understand, and in the end, that was how he was the one that found her. While in the announcement room, the girls begin to question the logistics of the events, since MF, who killed herself, would have to make the announcement and then sprint to the other end of the school and then hang herself, which is made further unlikely as she had apparently been dead for over 4 hours when the teacher found her. Thinking that MF might have made the announcement as a ghost and that she might have some sort of connection in the afterlife to the announcement system, the girls get the idea to summon her with an announcement, and they make one and head for the music room themselves. Surely enough, as they begin making their way in the direction of the music room, music is heard playing, and this time it's not the Yamaha preset from earlier. That's apparently the only tune that Mika knows despite playing piano, but a more advanced composition. As they make their way towards the sound, they begin to question the whole rumor. Apparently, no one knew about the forbidden relationship until after MF had hung herself. So why hang herself in the first place? If it was due to trouble at home, why do it in the music room at school? As they ponder this, Mika spots a calendar that is still showing the last month. As she yanks off the page thinking it will reveal the current month, there is instead a blank wall, but with scribbles on it. And it's a letter from MF to her teacher. And I guess we get our answer as to why she did it and why there. MF was not right in the head, as children rarely are when pedophiles prey on them. The writing starts off normal enough for a disgusting relationship, and she writes about her affection for the guy and mentions that a new girl started in his class, and her writing quickly becomes more and more jealous until the last third, when it just devolves into scribbles of kill him over and over and over. The girls start arguing about whether or not to stay, since they obviously have an angry spirit on their hands, and then the music from before starts to play, and it freaks them out and they run. In the middle of their frenzy, Mika is separated from the group, and Yukari and Chisato begin to search for her. Shortly after her disappearance, the music starts playing again, and the two remaining girls muster up the courage to go face the spirit in the music room, but when they enter, they see that it's Mika that's playing, which can't be, because Mika only knows the Yamaha preset tone, and she's currently playing the much more advanced composition. She's possessed by the spirit, but not for long, as Chisato successfully pleads with the spirit to release Mika, and she does, and she floats away. Yukari and Chisato chase her and pleads with her to tell them why she still lingers around so that they can help her, and that so she can move on before she becomes an angry spirit. Chisato gets more and more aggressive in her tone, and it obviously upsets the spirit, and to the point that Yukari starts to plead with Chisato to stop. Chisato makes Yukari understand that they have to do this, and if they don't, it will only get worse. Yukari understands, and she pleads with the spirit in a way that only someone in the same situation as the spirit could, and it seems to work. Yukari knows it's not over though, and she calls Mr. Okono, MF's forbidden lover and teacher, and pretends to be interested in him romantically, and attempts to lead him on, before mentioning that she could be MF's replacement, which sets him off. She lets him know that she found the literal writing on the wall that proves his guilt, but he doesn't understand how she could, since she erased that himself. But I guess ghosts have their ways. Yukari attempts to get Okono to come to school and apologize to MF, to which he refuses and then hangs up. With no other options, they begin looking for something to wake Mika up with, so that they can get out of here and get home. But then they are interrupted by Okono, who is right behind them. He seems changed. He's angry and dismissive, but in a different way, in a more tormented and less accusatory way. He tells the girls to leave and they comply. Chisato notices that Yukari seems affected by the events that just transpired in a different way than she usually is, almost like she's experiencing the whole thing herself. The next day, they return to the music room and Okono is still there, and he seems to be calm in a way. He says that he felt Emma's spirit, but that he was unable to communicate with her. And not knowing what to do, he just started playing her favorite song on the piano, the song that we kept hearing last night. And eventually, he felt like her spirit just faded away. He was transferred 2 weeks later, and the accusatory rambling on the wall changed from rambling to just "thank you, teacher," which is still gross, but at least she's at peace. Sometimes following the events in the music room, we catch up with Yukari as she catches up with her teacher, as she wants to talk to him since they haven't been spending a lot of time together lately. Yukari is apparently getting on his nerves and he's tired of her acting like a child, which she is, and he's a pedo, and the whole situation is eerily familiar to the previous investigation. Yukari's day isn't getting any better, as she comes home and is immediately confronted and scolded by her mother about an enormous amount of cash she apparently keeps in her room. Her mother calls her father and begs him to talk to her, which she apparently refuses, which naturally upsets Yukari. She tries to call Chisato, but she isn't home due to having school activities. She contemplates calling Mr. Kitamura her teacher, but nah. And then finally she calls Mika, and I get the sense that she doesn't do that too often, or that they are really friends at all, because Mika is very excited that she did call, and she can't quite believe it. Incidentally, Mika has something she wants to talk about, a rumor, so they agree to meet up at the cafe, and Chisato also shows up there. While Mika goes to the counter to order them food because Yukari didn't eat dinner at home, there is a very real moment where Yukari, being in the company of the one person on earth that she trusts, confides in Chisato about what just happened with her parents earlier. And just as Mika returns to the table, she clamps up and the conversation ends, and her very firmly planted guard comes back up, as well as her tough attitude. Mika has learned of a rumor about a train station where a lot of people have died under mysterious circumstances, and that someone perished there quite recently and might still be around in their spectral form a little longer. They make their way there and then jump the fence and enter the closed station and start walking around. They've bought the camera that they used at the park and they take picture in the bathroom and then move to the other bathroom and take another, but are then spooked by something and quickly exit. They see a figure and they run after her, but as they follow her down to the train platform, she vanishes into thin air. The girls start bickering about what to do and Mika falls onto the track, and then despite the station being closed for the night due to the trains not running anymore, a train comes barreling towards her. She somehow survives but is obviously distraught, especially since it seems like someone pushed her and no one else was there except the three of them. They all get into a heated argument about this and it ends with Mika telling them to go home and leave her alone, to which Chisato and Yukari comply with. As they go, Mika hears the phone ring on the platform and picks it up. It's just gibberish and then the call cuts out. Her pager then goes off and she uses the phone from there to call the number on it. And then the gibberish from before resumes where it left off, and Mika realizes it's not gibberish. It's someone who died here on the tracks and they're describing being in pieces and apologizing to whoever they think they're calling because they're gonna be late for their meeting. And then a train is heard from the call, and then the thud, and then it cuts out again. The phone rings again, and the person pleadingly asks Mika to wait so that they can meet up like they agreed to, but then the phone call cuts out again. Mika freaks out and runs off, and as she does, the phone rings again. She runs up the stairs but somehow gets turned around and ends up right back at the foot of them. Meanwhile, Yukari and Chisato are on their way home when Chisato, the moral glue of the group, manages to convince Yukari to head back and see how Mika is doing, And they do, and they all apologize to each other and continue their investigation. After encountering a strange drunk ghost that waves at them and then disappears, they find the shrine dedicated to the station's latest victim, a little boy, and they buy him a bottle of juice and place it at his memorial. The boy doesn't appear to them, so they wander around some more to look for him and possibly other strange phenomena, and they definitely find that last thing. There is a sign to a platform that doesn't exist, and the platform number just so happens to be 4, which is a number often associated with death in Japanese folklore. They also see the boy heading towards that platform, and as they descend to the platform itself, the air gets thick and foggy, and they run into a strange conductor who informs them that the last train is coming. Up until now, there have been small clues that hinted at the fact that not every ghost is here because they died here, but that they congregate here for some reason. They're probably here because the last train going to Yuyamiguaka, which could translate to something like Dusk Hill, is the train that is supposed to take them to the afterlife, and it departs right here from the death platform, which doesn't exist. And the fog is probably ghosts, and a lot of them. Mika wants to go on the train, but the others won't let her, as they seem to be more aware of its unnatural state and its destination not existent. And as the train departs without Mika on it, it, along with the platform itself and the conductor, fades away and vanishes into thin air. And the girls discover that they're actually standing in the middle of a graveyard that is next to the station itself. The next day they gather to take a look at the photos they took, and they see that in the bathroom where they got startled in the beginning, there is definitely a pair of ghostly hands. But more interesting, in the last picture they took on the death platform, they see that the thick fog was indeed something. It was dozens if not hundreds of ghosts, including the woman and the little boy they followed around, boarding the train heading for Dusk Hill. I don't know why, but I think this story might have inspired an urban legend of its own. 2chan user stuck at Kisaragi Station. In the legend, an anonymous user, later identifying herself as Hasumi, reaches out to users in a thread on 2chan, a once popular forum, and says that she was on her way home and that she's now stranded at a station that she doesn't know, Kisaragi Station. The story unfolds as she updates the thread periodically, as she tries to find her way out of the station and interacts with 2 other users on the forum, and it ends with her final message saying that her battery is low, but that she sees a car and that she's going to try and hitch a ride, and then she's never heard from ever again. I don't know why, but this story reminds me of this investigation, and it happened just 8 years after the release of this game, which by all accounts was fairly popular in Japan, despite not selling too well from my understanding. Sometimes after the event of the train station, we catch up with Mika as one of her classmates asks her if their school, Hanashiro High, has 7 mysteries of its own. In Japan, it's believed that supernatural events come in 7, and many locations are home to 7 mysteries or rumors or haunts, if you will, especially high schools. And some of the more famous ones that date back to the Edo period have become tourist destinations of their own. But before Mika can reply, the girl that asks make fun of her for investigating the supernatural or whatever, and then we cut to Mika going to Yukari to ask if she's annoying, and Yukari says no, but also a little, and then makes fun of her for the rumor investigation thing. Which is weird since she's right there with her during each and every one of them, and always the last one to agree to bail when things get weird. Mika attempts to prove her loyalty to Yukari and win their friendship by telling her that there's a rumor going around school that she's dating a teacher. But Mika defended her to the others because Yukari would never date someone as lame as Mr. Kitamura. Yukari, obviously uncomfortable with this, changes the subject and asks about Hanashiro High's 7 mysteries, and they agree to go investigate them tonight, and they do. The 7 mysteries, or wonders as they are sometimes translated to, are: number 1, the staircase where a boy supposedly died. Number 2, a cursed bust that allegedly has a human skull inside it and cries blood at night. Number 3, ghostly voices that can be heard at the library. Number 5, a skeleton in the biology room that apparently moves on its own at night because it's possessed by someone who doesn't know that they are dead. Number 6. A haunted cleaning locker that contains the remains of a black cat that can still be heard making noises at night. Number 7. The ghost of a track and field runner that can be spotted running around the track at night from a distance. And if you've caught that there was no number 4, you are not alone, and Yukari and Chisato ask about it. And apparently the rumor is that the math teacher and the PE teacher are gay and dating each other. That's the 4th haunting at Hanashiro High. Stay classy, Japan, never change. But please do. They set out to investigate the mysteries one by one, and they start with the possessed skeleton since the biology room is right around the corner. Apparently the skeleton itself is the actual remains of the person that now haunts it. The man was executed, and the closer the hour gets to the hour of his execution, the livelier the skeleton gets. But the girls learn what I think we all learn when we get old enough, and that is that the skeleton in biology class isn't real, which makes it even weirder when the skeleton actually does start to move and falls over. Though initially shocked, the cooler heads of the group don't think that the skeleton came to life, as there seemed to be a thudding going on beneath them, which probably just shake the skeleton. And yeah, it was just the old boiler in the basement going nuts for whatever reason, which does scare the girls more than any ghosts have so far, as they're afraid it's gonna blow up, so they run upstairs very quickly. The cursed blood-crying bust is close to where they are, so they make their way to the art room to find it. Apparently, the art teacher brought the bust with him from his previous school, and rumor has it that he covers up the nightly blood crying and washes the bust and covers up the evidence for it every morning. The statue doesn't seem to have started to cry yet, so the girls can't quite figure out which one it is, but as they search for it, they hear someone else outside the art room and they hide. It just so happens to be the teacher, and he enters the art room to look for whoever is sneaking around school, but then quickly gives up and hovers around the cabinet for a while before making his exit. In the cabinet there is a bust that seems to fit the description of the one in the rumor, but when the girls try and get it out to have a look at it, they accidentally drop it and it breaks, and it's revealed that it's not a real bust and it doesn't contain a skull. It's actually just a cheap piggy bank that's full of coins. The shed with the dead cat is nearby, so they head there next. The rumor here is that 2 cats were lovers, and one of them was killed by an evil human and stuffed into the locker that the rumor concerns. They can't quite confirm whether or not the part about the cat lovers is true, but there is indeed a locker here and it won't open. In an unexpected adventure game-esque fashion, they find the key to another locker just outside the shed, and in that locker there is a screwdriver that they can then use to pry open the rumored locker with. And just like all the other rumors so far, there was a tiny nugget of truth to this rumor, as the locker doesn't contain a dead cat but contains cat food, which does smell a little like a cat, I guess, and that probably fueled the rumor to begin with. An actual cat then shows off, and the food is probably there for that, so they feed it and move on. They're pretty close to the staircase where the boy broke his neck, so they begin making their way up to that part of the stairs that contains the fabled 13-step stairs, contrary to the regular 11-step stairs everywhere else in the school. Yukari is apprehensive, but she then begins to make her ascent. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And just like so many times before, a tiny bit of the rumor turns out to be true. This staircase does have more steps than the other staircases at the school, but there is no dead boy ghost. Yukari then slips and tumbles down, but unlike the rumor, she doesn't break her neck, and the group begin to question if the 13 steps are there normally and maybe aren't part of some supernatural phenomenon, but maybe just because of like a building thing. And since nothing else happens and they can't presently confirm if the staircase normally has 13 steps, they decide to move on and investigate the voices in the library nearby, and there are definitely voices. More specifically hushed whispers, and they're coming from 2 men, the men in the 4th mystery, that according to the rumor are dating. It sounds like they're breaking up, and like one of them is trying to convince the other, and then more men enter the room, and it's revealed that one teacher isn't trying to coerce the other teacher into doing gay things that he doesn't want to do, but is attempting to convince him to get drunk and play mahjong with him and the others, which is what they do there at night. With only one rumor left to go, they head for the track outside school, and there is definitely something there in the distance. Something is racing around the track and blowing up a big cloud of smoke, and just as they get closer and into the cloud of smoke, a fucking statue that's just fully alive just races past them. So I guess one of the rumors checked out. It's actually a common trope in Japanese TV shows to dedicate an episode to the 7 mysteries, and it often plays out like this. A gang of high schoolers will get bored during their summer vacation, and they will decide to go investigate the 7 mysteries that everyone that goes to that school is aware of, and they will all turn out to be dots and have perfectly reasonable and logical and earthly explanations, and then the last one will turn out to maybe or outright be supernatural, just like here. This bit of the game seems weird and out of place since we're one investigation off from the end, but when you think about the fact that this game and the next one was supposed to be one collected game, it does make sense to put a slice of life adventure just before the big second act plot begins, which is what is about to happen. Mika and her classmates discover a message written on a desk in the classroom, and the message is a request for companionship. Whoever wrote it wants someone to talk to, and Mika and her friends call whoever left it behind a sad freak, and they decide to have some fun, and Mika writes back so that they can start stringing the person along. Later she tells the rest of the investigation trio about this, and they naturally chide her for being mean to some sad lonely person who thinks that they're now talking to someone with a genuine interest in them, and not just a gaggle of teenage hags out to mess with them. The communication on the desk goes back and forth, and Mika tries to get the person's name, but they're not comfortable giving it, instead asking Mika's favorite kind of literature, to which Mika responds by just paraphrasing some highbrow stuff that her and her classmates heard one of the teachers say in class. The conversation changes to the weather, and the person on the other end remarks that they can see the sunset from the desk that they are using to correspond, which sets off a bit of a red flag because Mika's desk doesn't face that direction, but apparently Mika doesn't pick up on this, and neither does the rest of the gaggle. The topic of conversation changes once again to music, and Mika mentions really liking a very popular song that was current when the game came out, but the other person responds that they are not familiar, to which Mika is in shock over, since it's apparently very popular and totally inescapable if you listen to music. The person on the other end apologizes and explains that they don't keep up with the trends and that they live a quiet life, reading, playing music, staring out of the library window at the kids down below doing club activities, which does set the gaggle off because the view from the library doesn't exist since a building was constructed a few years ago that obscures that view now, and none of them can recall anyone that hangs out in the library that often and in that spot. The weirdness of it all makes Mika confess the whole thing to Yukari, and that it creeps her out. When Yukari asks why she just doesn't stop, she responds that she can't. For whatever reason, she can't stop, and so she doesn't. The person writes that they might not be able to continue their correspondence as they have to go away soon, and when Mika asks if they're moving, they reply no, they're gonna die. When Mika asks if they're sick, they say that they're not, they just know that they're gonna die, and they have known since forever, just like their mother, just like their sister. They apologize for scaring Mika, and Mika tries to end the correspondence, but then the person gives her what she wanted from the start. They ask to meet up. Meanwhile, the whole correspondence thing between Mika and the stranger has become a rumor of its own, and Chisato and Yukari are talking about it before deciding to go confront Mika about it and get her to stop, since it's obviously starting to affect her. She was on her way to the library to borrow a book, so they go and look for her there. They find the book that she was there to borrow, but not her. They ask a teacher about her, and they say that she just left, and comments that the book that they're holding has been lost for 30 years, ever since shortly after it was donated by a student, a nerdy bookworm who used to hang out in the library a lot, who unfortunately fell off a cliff nearby and died. They open the book and learn that her name was Sakura Higami, SH, the same initials as the stranger that Mika has been communicating with. Sensing that something is wrong, and not knowing what else to do, the girls rush to the desk that has been used for the correspondence, and they learn that Mika and Sakura are supposed to meet up at the cliff where Sakura died at 6 PM. They sprint there and look for her in the mountains, and when they approach the very spot where Sakura perished, there she is, dangerously close to the edge. It's ironic that the one time that they don't go looking for a ghost is the one time that they actually have the closest and most intimate encounter with one. Chisato and Yukari try and stop Mika from jumping over the edge, but they can't get through to her, and she does just that, except that she doesn't plummet to her death. She floats upwards, and then she disappears into thin air. And that was the end to Tansaku-Hen, but not the end of the story. The story will resume in Kiyomu-Hen, right where we left the characters in Tansaku-Hen, and the best is yet to come. I have completed the games several times now, and I've understood the gist of the story for a while, but it wasn't until I came across a translated playthrough by ARDW that I really got to understand the full story, as well as almost all of the nuance that was completely lost on me, like the bathroom chant thing in the beginning, the 7 mysteries, and the ever-present payphone that you can call in-game, which I haven't mentioned before because I think this game still deserves to be shrouded in just a little bit of mystery. It feels good to have it out there in the world, and it feels good to be able to share this story with all of you. A story that I've been touched by and that I've been touched by alone. And like I said, it doesn't end there. We'll continue in Kiyomu-Hen, and then we'll have to see where the rumors take us from there. I'm excited to see what the ending was all about, and I hope the pedo teacher slips on the cursed stairs and dies. I think Twilight Syndrome, despite being a very Japanese game, speaks to all of us. We've all been teenagers, and we've all spread rumors, and we've all listened to them. And some of us have even gone to investigate allegedly haunted places and scared ourselves shitless. So a game that captures that feelings and bottles it and packages it up as a game is an incredibly engaging experience for something that on paper just seems so fucking boring. Nothing much of anything really ever happens in the game itself, but the anticipation of something happening is killer, and when it finally does, it really delivers. I hope you've enjoyed this journey through Twilight Syndrome Tansaku-Hen, and I'll see you next time when we go investigate and search for answers as to what happened to Mika. But for now, good night.